In blizzard weather. I was stuck on the highway while driving home for the spring festival. My boyfriend said, "The dowry car from your family should not be less than 500 yuan in the future. If it's less than 500 yuan, I won't drive it." Calmly, I asked, "Then how much dowry will you give?" He said, "In our place, it's all 30 yuan. At most, it's 50 yuan." He asked me to be sensible and understand that his parents don't turn money easily. I nodded in agreement. "Okay, let's have a naked marriage. I don't want dowry and I won't bring any dowry either." He angrily left me alone on the highway and blacklisted me, and gave me the cold shoulder. After the spring festival, he came back to find me. "Have you thought it through? Apologize. And this marriage can still happen." I replied with a laugh. "Sorry, Finn. I'm already married. The weather this year is bad. Freezing rain and blizzard have caused flights and high-speed trains to be suspended." I drove my boyfriend home for the spring festival and was stuck on the highway. Finn was in a depressed mood. I was just about to say something witty. He looked at the car in front and said, "The dowry car from your family should not be less than 500 yuan in the future. If it's less than 500 yuan, I won't drive it." I glanced at him in surprise. His expression was serious and not joking. In my impression, Finn is not the kind of person who would say such things. He is humble and polite, and has upright values. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in a relationship with him for 2 years. Calmly, I asked, "Then how much dowry will you give?" I sensed a subtle defensiveness in Finn. He said with a half smile, "In our place, it's all 30 yuan. At most, it's 50 yuan." I tried to state as calmly as possible. "So your family will give at most 50 yuan as dowry. But you want my family to buy a car worth no less than 500 yuan. Finn seemed to know that this request was excessive. He tried to rationalize it. "Be sensible. My parents don't turn money as easily as yours. I can't empty their savings just by getting married. Right?" I directly nodded in agreement. "Okay. Let's have a naked marriage. I don't want dowry and I won't bring any dowry either." Finn's face distorted in an instant. He stared at me angrily. "If you don't bring dowry, how can we decorate? Have you considered our future at all? The house Finn mentioned is his pre-emerita property. His salary is 10 yuan, and his mortgage is 8 yuan. That means that not only do I have to pay 1 million yuan, his salary is only enough to pay the mortgage. After marriage, I have to pay for all the expenses. In this marriage, every step is his calculation." For a moment, I didn't speak. I looked at his face seriously, as if seeing him for the first time. Fine has always been upright, but only when it comes to his core interests does he show his true self. I said, "That's your pre-emerita house. It has nothing to do with me." Finn frowned and immediately retorted, "How can the house have nothing to do with you? Isn't it enough that you can live in the house for free after we get married? You also want to live comfortably, right? Shouldn't you contribute money for decoration?" I didn't want to get angry while driving, but my tone couldn't help showing my anger. "Think about it yourself. For marriage, your family gives at most 50 yuan. My family has to pay at least more than 1 million yuan. Do you think it's reasonable?" Finn had a gloomy face. "Your family is rich. My family is not. For us to live well after marriage, it's okay for your family to pay a little more. Why are you so calculating about our tier relationship?" I completely saw through his hypocrisy and fell silent. There was only one thought in my heart. This marriage cannot happen. Our car moved forward 10 meters in an extremely oppressive and silent atmosphere. There was a knock on the car window. I turned my head and quickly lowered the window. "Surprised?" I said. "You are also driving home." Axel had a wry smile. Yes. Who knew the highway would be blocked too? He handed into cans of coffee. I said thank you. Axel saw Finn and said to me, "You brought your boyfriend back for the new year." Axel greeted Finn politely. Finn nodded coldly and turned his face away without speaking to anyone. I was a bit embarrassed. Axel smiled and didn't care. I simply got out of the car and chatted with him. Axel is my neighbor. We had a good relationship before graduating from high school. We gradually grew apart after going to college. I pointed to the third Mercedes-Benz behind me and asked, "Is that car yours? Did you also bring your girlfriend back for the new year?" Axel was a bit surprised. "How did you know?" I smiled and didn't answer. Because only the woman in that car had been staring at me untimidly. The other person's gaze was so sharp. I didn't have to be so unperceptive. After chatting for a while, I pretended that I couldn't stand the cold. I stomped my feet and said, "Go back quickly. Don't freeze in this cold weather." Axel looked a bit reluctant. "You go in first. I still want to get some fresh air." I sat back in the car and saw Axel shivering in the gap between the traffic. But he didn't want to go back to the car. I found a skincare gift box from the back seat and walked towards Axel with a smile. "I just received 2 cans of coffee from you. I have a set of skincare products here that are quite good. I want to give it to my sister-in-law. Take me to meet her." Axel laughed. "After so many years. Why are you so polite?" I followed Axel to his car. The girl in the car stared at me. I bent down and greeted her through the car window. "Hello, sister-in-law. Thank you for your coffee just now. This is skincare products given to me by my friend." "Sister-in-law. Try it." Giselle gave me a sideways glance and said coldly, "Take it away. I don't use this brand." I was a bit surprised and didn't know what to say. Looking up, I saw Axel's face full of embarrassment. He was about to apologize. I said first, "We are even now." Axel was stunned for a moment, and then smiled easily. Since they didn't want it. I didn't want to be overly enthusiastic. I came back with the skincare products. Finn glanced at me and said gloomily, "You're back. Why didn't you give it away?" I thought he was going to comfort me. But unexpectedly, he said sarcastically, "They just gave you 2 cans of coffee. But you are so eager to give a gift box. Why are you so generous to outsiders?" My anger was aroused by him. "I just gave it. So what? Haven't I been generous to you?" Finn's eyes were full of anger. "My sister asked you to buy her a lipstick. But you didn't buy it. But for outsiders, you give a whole set casually." He looked at me sarcastically. "Mariana, I see through you." I didn't expect that in his eyes. Not buying cosmetics for his sister could also be a point to attack me. His sister was very arrogant when we first met. As if she expected me to fawn over her. She deliberately added me on WeChat but didn't contact me. From time to time, she sent me a link and asked me to buy things for her. I frowned and asked him back. "From the time we started dating until now, your mother asked me to buy clothes. She also asked me to buy New Year's goods for winter. Your father asked me to buy cigarettes and alcohol. Why should I also buy cosmetics for your sister? I am only your girlfriend, not an ATM for your whole family." Finn was embarrassed by my questioning. With a gloomy face, he lowered his head and kept sending messages. The atmosphere in the car was so oppressive that it was suffocating. Slowly, we moved to the next highway service area. Suddenly, he shouted, "Stop!" I pulled over and looked at him coldly. Finn got out of the car and said, while holding the car door, "You drive back by yourself. My family is coming to pick me up." I didn't react for a moment. "Aren't you going to my house this year?" Finn was full of sarcasm. "What's the point of going?" He warned me condescending. "You better think clearly whether this marriage will still happen. You have slept with me. Who else will want you except me?" I was shocked and wide in my eyes. I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you slut-shaming me?" Finn slammed the car door hard. I didn't expect a man with a PhD To be so low quality as to slut shame his girlfriend. I was really angry. I scolded him on WeChat. What era is it now? Do you still want to control women with slut shaming? Is the woman you slept with your possession? Is your dick a marker? Why don't you mark Mother Earth too? Declare that the earth is your possession? You think you are so great. At most, you are just a 10-second toy. In these 2 years, besides making me angry and PUAing me, what's the use of you when I support you with my salary? I declare that we break up. I don't want you anymore. Before I finished venting, a red exclamation mark popped up on WeChat. Finn blacklisted me. Finn's hometown is only more than 30 kilometers away, but I still have 800 kilometers to go. He left me alone on the highway and blacklisted me. I was so angry by his slut shaming that tears couldn't be held back and gushed out. My vision was a bit blurred. Thinking of being with such a person for 2 years, I felt disgusted and thought I was not worth it. In the evening, his sister sent me a photo. Finn was having a meal and chatting with another woman. In the photo, the man was neatly dressed and gentle and considerate. The woman was gentle and beautiful. Between their glances, their eyes seemed to be connected. It seems that I will have a new sister-in-law. You see, it's obvious whether a person loves you or not. He can ignore my safety and not ask about my situation on the highway. He can also date another woman quickly after leaving me. There was a series of banging sounds from behind the car. I was startled. I glanced at the rearview mirror. Many cars behind had collided. Fortunately, I wasn't affected. I calmed down and drove more slowly. Compared to life and death, being disgusted by a jerk for 2 years is a small matter. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I finally arrived at the next service area. Because I was nervous the whole way, I decided to rest at the service area for one night. My phone rang. I thought it was Finn calling to quarrel or his sister calling to show off. But on the screen was a strange number. Hello, Mariana? This is Axel. Can you give me a ride? I waited at the service station for a long time before I saw a small black figure slowly approaching from afar. I quickly ran towards Axel. As soon as I got close, I saw that he was almost frozen stiff. In such cold weather, normal people can't stand being outside for 10 minutes. How did he walk here from the last service area? I quickly stuffed 2 cans of hot drinks and hot buns into his clothes and asked, "Where's your car?" His eyes reddened. My girlfriend kicked me out. I held his hand. His hand was as cold as ice. Let's go to my car. The heating in the car was turned up to the maximum. I gave him the last bit of hot water in my thermos. Axel sat for a long time before he caught his breath. Trembling, he took out his phone from his pocket and started to send voice messages to Giselle. Axel, don't be angry. Stop first. It's not safe for you to drive alone in the snowy weather. Wait for me. I'll drive you back. I looked at him quietly. He was really calm. Even if his girlfriend kicked him out in the ice and snow, he would confirm her safety first. Compared to Finn, it's really a world of difference. Giselle didn't reply to WeChat. Axel called hundreds of times. Finally, he got through. Calmly, he said, "We can talk about those things later. It's not safe for you to drive in the snow. Wait for me. I'll drive you back." Giselle said coldly. No need. I have already gotten off the national highway, and am driving towards my home. Freeze. I don't know how powerful the words freeze are. I saw Axel holding the phone, and looking out the window silently for a long time. I glanced at the reflection in the car window. It seemed that his eyes were a bit moist. I tried to make the atmosphere in the car lighter. Hey. You are not the worst. I was also left on the highway by my boyfriend. Axel was surprised. In this blizzard weather, can he let you drive back alone with peace of mind? I pretended to be strong and said, yes, because I didn't want to buy a dowry car for 500 yuan. He left me. Axel gave a short laugh. That's so coincidental. Because I didn't want to buy 2 more houses for my girlfriend's family. She kicked me out. I was surprised. Isn't 1 house enough to live in? Why 2? And it's not a good time to buy a. Axel's face was a bit unsightly. Her family has a younger brother. She wants me to buy 2 houses. The big one must be a villa for her brother. As soon as I heard this, I almost slapped the table and exclaimed, "What's this called? When one person gains power, everyone in his family benefits?" Axel gave a helpless wry smile. I asked him, "Did you agree?" Axel asked me back with a complicated expression. "What do you think?" Even if I agreed, the Goof family would definitely not agree. We parked the car at the service area and rested there for the night. It was so cold that we both took out the coats from our suitcases and covered ourselves. We didn't sleep well all night. When I woke up, I found Axel's clothes covering me. Looking up, I saw him outside the car, smoking and making a phone call. I opened the car window for ventilation. Their voices floated in through the window. The woman on Axel's phone criticized him righteously. "Once you are married, you are family. Tian is a very filial person. She's not after your money. She just wants her family to live better. If you care about her, you shouldn't be so calculative about these things." Axel's voice was cold. "I care about her? She left me on the highway. Did she ask even once how I would get home?" The woman on the phone was very angry. "You are a big man with hands and feet. You can just find a ride-charging car and go home. Did you ask if it's safe for TNT and to drive home alone in such heavy snow?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yesterday, I saw with my own eyes that Axel called Giselle and asked her to wait and that he would drive her home." Axel sneered. "You go and ask Giselle yourself if I called her or not." The woman on the other end of the phone said again, "It's up to you. Your family has already sent out the invitations. If you can't coax TNT in well, I'll see how you end up." Axel didn't say anything and hung up directly. I waited for him to finish smoking before asking him if he wanted to go to the service area to eat something. Axel looked tired and was lost in thought with his head down. Since I didn't know the whole story, I didn't speak easily. We bought some things at the service area and set off again. Taking turns driving with 2 people was much easier than driving alone and dealing with Finn's emotions. Although there was a traffic jam on the road, the atmosphere in the car was very lighthearted. Axel was discussing with me that we must find something hot to eat at the next service area. Suddenly, our car skidded and rushed forward sideways. And next to it was an elevated bridge. If we flipped over, we would be dead for sure. I grabbed the handle tightly and shouted, "Tap the brakes! Tap the brakes!" Axel slowly tapped the brakes and held the steering wheel nervously. Finally, he controlled the vehicle steadily. We drove the car to the emergency lane and stopped. After the false alarm, we were silent for a long time. Axel apologized softly. "Sorry." The car suddenly skidded. I quickly waved my hand. "It's okay. It's okay. Your driving skills are much better than mine. If it weren't for you, we would be dead." Axel was stunned for a long time. He gave a melancholy smile. "Your boyfriend has lost someone worthy of cherishing." Our eyes met, and the atmosphere was a bit subtle. I was a bit at a loss when my phone rang in due time. Finn's sister sent me photos and many chat screenshots again. The photos were of the latest set of a certain cosmetics brand. The chat screenshots were of her friends asking her to introduce her brother. Finn's sister left a showy message. "Why are there so many women who want to be my sister-in-law?" I regarded her as a clown jumping around. Fine is only good-looking on the surface. Once it comes to marriage discussions, I wonder which woman would exchange 5,000 for 1,000,000 with him. Stuck on the road in the ice and snow, we saw people selling instant noodles by the roadside from afar. Axel and I were both very excited. We hadn't eaten anything hot for a day. These people are really good at doing business. In such heavy snow, this bucket must cost at least 30 yuan. Axel took his thermos and got out of the car. "Don't get down. I'll go buy it." In a short while, He brought back 2 steaming buckets of instant noodles. Axel said, "These are given for free by the villagers. No money." In this vast expanse of whiteness, we couldn't see the road at all. I don't know how they managed to bring things up here. Axel and I were both very touched. I turned around and took 2 gift boxes from the back seat and gave them to them. The enthusiastic villagers waved their hands and refused to take them. We put down the gift boxes and ran away. When I ran back to the car, I suddenly found that we were holding hands. Axel naturally let go of my hand and got into the car. "Come up quickly and eat." The small space was filled with the aroma of instant noodles. We put our heads together and ate instant noodles. Axel looked at me and suddenly said, "Otherwise, marry me. I don't need you to buy a car or pay for the decoration. Keep the dowry and bride price for yourself. During the Chinese New Year, we don't have to argue about whose house to go to. Just take a few steps and we'll be at your parents' house in 2 minutes. Not to mention anything else." I was really tempted by the last point. As a daddy's girl, if it weren't for Finn, I would rather stay by my parents' side. Axel added another sentence. "I've already broken up with Giselle." Thinking of Finn's attitude and his sisters jumping around, I made up my mind. Okay. Axel and I decided to get the marriage certificate as soon as we got home. After passing the place with heavy snowstorms, the road became smoother and smoother as we went further south. I chatted with Axel to relieve fatigue. We both love snorkeling. In our leisure time, we like sudoku and reading. He also likes to taste delicious food everywhere. I suddenly remembered that I once went to a buffet that cost 200 yuan per person with Finn. We went in happily. But after Finn ate, he scolded me for a month. At that time, I was so stupid. I still wanted to consider his self-esteem and continuously lowered my quality of life to accommodate him. The more I talked to Axel, the more we hit it off. Axel asked me very frankly, "Do you remember that we were also ambiguous for a while in high school? Why did you suddenly ignore me later?" I was a bit embarrassed. After thinking for a while, I still told him, "Do you remember that once when we went on a trip with our classmates, I had a stomachache from eating something bad? You ran to the women's restroom to bring me paper." Axel laughed heartily. How could I not remember? Entering the women's restroom for the first time in my life was for you. If it were now, I would definitely find a woman to bring it in for you. At that time, I was young and impulsively brought it to you. I explained guiltily. I felt very embarrassed. After that, I didn't want to be with you. Every time I saw you, I would think of this embarrassing thing. Things that I cared about a lot when I was young are now taken lightly. Axel laughed. Should we notify those 2 when we get married? I thought for a while. One of them wants to exchange 5,000 for 1,000,000. The other one wants 880 yuan in bride price and a villa for free. I suppressed a smile. Let's not say anything for now. Wait for them to find out by themselves. If Finn and Giselle knew that their plans had failed, they would probably go crazy. After experiencing all the hardships along the way, we finally arrived home. As soon as we got home, we each went home and slept. After waking up, Axel called me and urged me, "Hurry up and get your household registration book. After we finish, let's go eat a big meal." I took out my household registration book and a card in a daze and went out. It felt like going to handle a very ordinary procedure. An hour later, we stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, looking at the marriage certificate in our hands. We were all very surprised. Are we married just like this? Axel was the first to react. He took my hand and smiled. From now on, we are legal. We tacitly went to eat the pickled cabbage noodles at the back street of our high school. We randomly ordered a bunch of side dishes and ate to our heart's content. After returning home, as soon as I entered the door, I saw Aunt Goose sitting in the living room crying. How did I meet such in-laws? The invitations have all been sent out. At the last moment, they insisted that my family buy them a villa. Isn't this taking advantage of the situation? My mom sat next to her and comforted her. Aunt Gu has been strong all her life and is most afraid of being gossiped about. The Shang family's move has really hit her weak spot. On one hand is her son's marriage. On the other hand is the family property she has worked hard to earn. She finds it hard to choose. Looking at Aunt Gu crying so sadly, I suddenly remembered that we hadn't told our elders about our marriage yet. I took out the marriage certificate. Aunt Gu, you don't have to pay attention to them. Axel and I are married. Aunt Gu looked at me in surprise and performed a happy cry. After the initial shock, both families were extremely happy. My parents didn't approve of Finn in the first place. Hearing that I had broken up and was coming back to settle down, they were so happy that they directly gave a dowry of 1.5 million yuan. The Gu family was even more exaggerated. They directly transferred the wedding house they bought in full to my name. That wedding house was at the northernmost end of the city. I disliked that it was too far from home. Axel immediately conveyed my dissatisfaction to his family. The Gu family was overjoyed. The parents of both families quickly pulled money and bought a villa in the same community. From buying the house to transferring the ownership, it was incredibly smooth. I finally felt the smoothness of being well matched. The parents of both sides are of the same social class, have similar values, and have comparable economic strength. There is no exchanging a daughter for 880 yuan in bride price and a villa. Nor is there exchanging 5,000 yuan in bride price for a 500 yuan car and hundreds of thousands of yuan in decoration funds. There is no calculation in the name of marriage. My marriage to Axel is a win-win for both of us and for both families. After buying the villa, I stood in the living room of the big villa and pointed to the ceiling and said to Axel, "Knock down this ceiling. I want a high-ceilinging living room. Also, knock down this wall. I want a large floor-to-ceiling window." Axel recorded my suggestions one by one in his memo without saying a single no throughout. This home is ours. The sunroom I like is in the decoration plan. The audiovisual game room he likes is also in the decoration plan. My phone rang again. Finn's sister sent me a message again. She sent me several more chat screenshots. They were all chat screenshots of various matchmakers introducing girlfriends to her brother. There were just no photos of that beautiful girl with his brother from last time. If they were still in a relationship, Finn's sister would definitely send photos. Finn's sister sent me a covering mouth and laughing emoji and said, "Oh, my brother is just so popular. If someone kneels down and apologizes to me, I can still consider saying a good word for her." I laughed out loud when I saw her words and asked, pretending to be ignorant, "Hey, what about the woman in the photo last time? Why is there no news? Is it that your brother can't sell for a good price and that person is unwilling to pay 1 million dowry?" I couldn't help but laugh sarcastically in the voice message. Finn's sister was extremely stimulated and frantically called me. I didn't want to listen to her vulgar language and directly hung up and put it on silent mode. I didn't delete Finn's sister because I still had a use for her in my circle of friends. The wedding was scheduled for the 15th day of the first lunar month. The Gu family didn't give in for a long time, and the Zhang family couldn't sit still. Aunt Gu came to my house and said with a smile, their family is still dreaming and thinks they are at a disadvantage. They told me that they don't want houses anymore, just buy a villa for the whole family to live in. Dream on. I looked at Axel with a half smile. Axel looked helpless. I really didn't know her family was like this when we were in love. Aunt Gu wanted to send out the invitations again and change the bride's name to mine. I looked at Axel and waved my hand with a mischievous smile. No need. Mom. Just change it at the wedding banquet. Let them think that there is no change in the wedding, and let them be anxious for a few more days. Changing the invitations will definitely alarm the Zhang family. I won't change them. Let them think that they have grasped the Gu family's weakness. When they pass the wedding date and then find that their dream is shattered. That will be exciting. Finn kept sending messages to stimulate me through his sister. But I didn't respond. He probably went around the matchmaking market outside and found that no woman was willing to pay a 500 yuan on dowry and 500 yuan for decoration funds for him. He actually came back to me again. He sent me a message through his sister arrogantly. My brother said that considering your 2 years of relationship, if you apologize to him and add another 500 yuan to the dowry, he can still consider it. As a second and worn-out shoe like you, see which man dares to want you. I advise you to cherish this opportunity. I was so disgusted that I almost threw up last night's meal. I don't know where his confidence comes from that makes him think he has me in his control. Now I'm even more looking forward to his expression after he finds out. The wedding was being prepared intensively. The date remained the same, only the bride changed. As the date got closer and closer, the Zhang family became more and more restless. The Zhang family kept calling the Gu family. Now it's Aunt Gu who is sitting firmly and waiting. The Zhang family's request changed from 880 yuan in bride price and a villa and a house at the beginning to only 1.88 million yuan in bride price in the end. Zhang's mother said that the bride price absolutely cannot be reduced. Otherwise, the Gu family would be embarrassed at the wedding banquet. And they would definitely not let their daughter marry into the Gu family. Aunt Gu almost laughed out loud and didn't pay any attention to them. Both families focused on preparing for the wedding. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, the wedding proceeded as usual. When hundreds of guests arrived at the wedding banquet, they only then found that the bride had changed. I made a stunning appearance in a white wedding dress. There were many mutual friends of Giselle and Axel in the audience who were shocked and took pictures of me with their mobile phones. I showed them my most beautiful smile. I believe that it won't be long before Giselle can see from her moments that Axel's bride has changed. Getting married is lively but also very tiring. After it was successfully concluded, I felt like my bones were about to fall apart. Since the wedding house was still being decorated, Axel shamelessly moved from next door to my house. My father is good at cooking and makes extremely delicious meals. After eating for just a couple of days, Axel discussed with me. Otherwise, after the decoration is done, let's live at home for a longer period. I gave him a sideways glance. Living next door. Can you make it in time for breakfast in the morning? Axel thought of my dad's crab roe buns, braised meat noodles, and scallion pancakes. After hesitating for a long time, he said, "Why don't your family accept me as a son-in-law who moves in? The kind that brings the whole family. I want to bring my parents over to have meals too." I burst out laughing and fell on the bed. This son-in-law is so worth it. Not only is he handsome and has a good personality, but he also comes with a considerable family property. As expected, as soon as the wedding banquet ended, Giselle found out. She went crazy and called Axel. Axel was annoyed and directly gave me his phone to hold. Giselle cried on the phone. "Axel, how could you marry someone else?" I said in a calm tone. Maybe it's because he can't afford a 10 million yuan villa and 880 yuan in bride price? Giselle was so angry that she cursed me with vulgar language on the phone. But I countered her so much that she could only cry. I was also annoyed by her and blacklisted her phone. Unable to reach Axel by phone, Giselle directly brought Shang's mother to block our door. The property management of the community is very strict. The security guards stopped them from entering. Also, they were disgusted by their continuous making trouble at the gate. So they asked us to deal with it. Axel held my hand and strolled over. Uncle Gu and Aunt Gu followed behind us. We wanted to make things clear to them once and for all. Giselle and her mother stood at the gate. As soon as she saw Axel, she burst into tears as if Axel had heartlessly abandoned her. "Axel, how could you treat me like this after we've been together for 2 years?" Axel's expression was very calm. "We've been together for 2 years. Didn't you still leave me alone on the highway? Just because I didn't buy a villa for your family. You don't even care about whether I live or die." Giselle was speechless. She turned her spearhead towards me and looked at me with resentment. "Did you cheat on me? You got married to this bitch just a few days after breaking up with me. How long have you been with this bitch behind my back?" I didn't like these words. "Your mouth is really dirty. Speaking of which, I should thank you. If it weren't for you leaving him on the highway, I wouldn't have picked up such a good husband. Giselle was so angry. You bitch. She rushed over to hit me. Axel blocked me behind him. Her slap landed on Axel's face. She looked at Axel in disbelief. You actually protect her. Giselle raised her hand to hit again. I angrily grabbed her wrist. Did you ask for my permission before hitting my man? As soon as Aunt Gu heard that Giselle had left Axel alone on the highway, she was furious. Seeing her son being slapped. She also forgot about being a cultured person and rushed up to fight with Giselle and her mother. The scene was really chaotic. Shang's mother shouted loudly. How dare you hit her? She is carrying the Gu family's child. Aunt Gu's hand stopped. Axel looked at Giselle in shock. Giselle showed an expression of being confident of victory. She took out a pregnancy test stick from her bag and threw it at Axel. I looked down at the sign on the pregnancy test stick and felt a sinking feeling in my heart. After a short silence, Axel said to me, Mariana, you go back first. Trust me. I can handle this. I broke free from Axel's hand holding me and said infuriately, Okay. You handle it. Giselle was pregnant. She said the child was Axel's. When I went home and told my parents about this, they were both very angry. My dad said in a low voice, If that person from the Gu family gives birth, this marriage must be divorced. My daughter who is getting married for the first time cannot be a stepmother for his family. My mom looked at my expression and said, Fei, no matter what decision you make, Mom will support you. Soon, Axel's parents came over. When I saw that Axel wasn't following behind them, I had a bad premonition. Aunt Gu's face didn't look good. As soon as she came, she pushed over a card. Fei was wrong today. There are 2 million yuan in here. Fei, you take it for pocket money. My mom pushed the card back. She doesn't lack pocket money. Let's see how to deal with today's matter first. Aunt Gu said seriously. Mariana, don't worry. Just now, Xiao took her to the hospital for an examination. She didn't dare to go. The pregnancy is definitely false. Even if it's true. Aunt Gu said gloomily. The child can be kept. Giselle definitely can't enter my family's door. My dad said beside. If the child is kept, I can't let my daughter be a stepmother. Aunt Gu was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. I made an excuse of being tired and went upstairs to take a short nap. I slept for a long time. In a daze, I felt the bed sink. Axel was back. It's already 9 o'clock. Why did it take so long to handle this? Axel was a bit aggrieved. I came back right after my parents. I was stopped by your dad downstairs, and we talked for a long time. I glanced at him. His answer should have satisfied my dad very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let him come upstairs. I didn't ask a single word. Axel took the initiative to say, Don't worry. She is definitely not pregnant. I asked curiously. How can you be so sure? Axel turned over and sat up. He said very seriously. I am a very planned person. There won't be any accidents before it's time. What he meant was that the protective measures were very good. Axel continued. Moreover, just now when I took her to the hospital for an examination, she didn't dare to go. I said that even if you are really pregnant, we will do a paternity test then. These 2 sentences blocked Giselle. Giselle could only talk about the 2 years of relationship. But their relationship had already been ruined by her. I snorted. I still felt a bit uncomfortable in my heart. I turned over and slept by myself. He moved over and held me tightly in his arms. After the spring festival, I was so busy that I forgot to announce my marriage on moments. Finn seemed to finally remember me. His attitude was still high and mighty. Have you thought it through? Apologize now, and we can still get married. Huh? Haven't my previous voice messages broken his defense yet? How could he still have the nerve to come back and find me? I laughed heartily. Sorry. Finn. I'm already married. Finn shouted in disbelief. Are you kidding? With someone like you. Who else would want you except me? At this moment, I found Finn extremely disgusting. In these 2 years, on the surface, he was gentle and considerate. But in fact, he had been suppressing me all the time, saying that I was lazy, not virtuous, selfish, and had many other shortcomings. If I were really so bad, why didn't he break up with me? I chuckled. Without you. This piece of trash. I am now married better. My husband not only gave me 880 yuan in bride price, but also gave me a villa in full payment. Finn sneered. Mariana. You are dreaming. Without saying a word, I hung up his phone and blacklisted all his contact methods. I directly announced my marriage on Moments. I put my wedding video, my big diamond ring, and the photo of the property ownership certificate on it. Finn's sister was still in my Moments. I believed that she would definitely tell her brother that I was really married. And I married a second-generation rich man who was well-matched. Looking at the soaring likes and comments on this Moments post. How should I say it? Suddenly, I was a bit looking forward to seeing his expression of being broken when he found out the truth. Finn saw my announcement through his sister. He was broken. He called me crazily. I blacklisted them one by one. In the end, I couldn't blacklist them fast enough. I simply turned off my phone and changed my SIM card. Finn found many mutual friends to contact me. At this time, he was still trying to PUA me. That mutual friend said earnestly, Finn cried all night yesterday because of you. He said that you and Axel got married quickly and have no feelings. You won't be happy after marriage. Axel is just having a momentary novelty. When he gets tired of you, he will quickly kick you out. Only he will always tolerate your temper and always love you. I let out a mocking sound. Love me? Don't disgust me. That mutual friend said. I have also watched you to come all the way to now. Finn is also very uncomfortable now. He specifically told me that although his parents don't turn money easily, as long as you are willing, he can give 100 yuan in bride price. He asks you to divorce immediately and marry him. I quickly shouted. Forget it. Before, with only 50 yuan in bride price, he wanted my family to provide at least a 500 yuan car and 500 yuan in decoration funds. Now he gives 100 yuan. My family would have to pay 2 million yuan in compensation. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. Let him find someone else. That friend was shocked. His family only gives 50 yuan and asks your family to pay 1 million. I firmly nodded. That friend was very embarrassed and hung up the phone. When one friend couldn't persuade us, Finn found more mutual friends to mediate. I told every mediator about Finn's exchange 50 yuan for 1 million incident. Soon, they all knew that Finn didn't pay for the marriage but asked my family to pay millions. Everyone despised him. Finn grew and his popularity. After being exposed as faking pregnancy, Giselle had no news. Axel learned from the side that her pregnancy test kit was taken from a relative at home. She just wanted to disrupt our marriage. As soon as she heard that she wasn't pregnant, Aunt Gu was much relieved. Now that her son was also married, she couldn't stay still and wanted to go on a trip. Just as I was also starting to plan our honeymoon trip, I invited the 4 elders to go on a vacation in Europe with us. As soon as they heard that they had to go so far, they waved their hands again and again. You to go by yourselves. We will just go to Hainan for the winter. The 4 elders left us and went to Hainan. Axel and I made a good strategy and plan, booked flights and hotels, and then set off on vacation. As soon as we pulled our luggage and walked out of the gate, coincidentally, Giselle came to make trouble again. The Jean family didn't want to give up the golden turtle son-in-law they had almost got. This time, there were even more people. As soon as Axel saw this, he didn't let me go out either. He immediately called the police. The Shang family had a large number of people and shouted and cursed through the property gate. In about 20 minutes, the police arrived. The arrogance of the Shang family was immediately curbed. Everyone showed a tragic expression as if they were the victims being bullied. Axel asked me to stay in the property management office. He went out by himself and said to Giselle, "Your harassment of me like this is meaningless." Giselle looked at him and had an emotional outburst. She desperately tried to break free from her mother's hand holding her. "I didn't ask for that money. I don't want money anymore. I don't want bride price anymore. Axel, don't abandon me. I've been with you for 3 years. Are you going to abandon me for this woman?" Giselle cried hysterically, making people feel pitiful. She looked at Axel with tears in her eyes. "Axel, I beg you. I don't want money anymore. Divorce her and I will marry you immediately." Zhang's mother had a gloomy face and held her beautiful daughter. The expressions of the other Zhang family members were also not good. For a moment, I was worried that Axel would be soft-hearted. Axel said calmly, "As early as when you kicked me out of the car. It was impossible for us. I didn't break up with you because of her. But for myself." Axel was very rational. He said to Zhang's mother, "If you don't pester us anymore, I cannot pursue the 250. You on your son owes me. And the Mercedes-Benz your daughter is driving can also be transferred to you." Shang's mother dragged her beautiful daughter and made a scene loudly. "You want to send us away with just these things? Didn't my daughter sleep with you for 3 years for nothing?" Axel coldly retorted. "Is your daughter a prostitute? If so, what's the price? 250. Yuan plus a Mercedes-Benz should be enough to pay off. Right?" Tears streamed down Giselle's face. Shang's mother didn't even look at her daughter. She asked for 5 million yuan. Axel twitched the corner of his mouth. "Then let's go to court. You can search what the consequences are if you don't pay back 250. Yuan. Axel sarcastically looked at Shang's younger brother behind the crowd. "If you are not afraid, you are betting on your son. Guess how many years your son will go to prison." As soon as Shang's mother heard this and with the persuasion of the police, they backed down. Axel turned back, took me by the hand, pulled the luggage with one hand, and held me with the other. He walked forward with big steps and didn't look back even once. We got on the pre-booked car. From the rear view mirror, we saw Giselle being pulled by her hair by her mother and beaten until she couldn't stand up. "You cheap thing who can't hold on to a man." I turned to look at Axel. "Aren't you going to help her?" Axel said infuriately. "I gave her a chance. This is her own choice." Giselle chose to be on the same side as the Zhang family and forced money for her natal family. Then she has to bear this result herself. During our honeymoon trip, Axel and I had a great time playing in Europe for half a month. After coming back, we went snorkeling in the Maldives. Snorkeling is an expensive but enjoyable pastime. We saw sharks and manta rays together. We caught octopuses and lobsters in coral caves. Axel was stung by a jellyfish once. But it didn't affect our great fun. As soon as we got off the plane after the honeymoon trip, my phone received a lot of messages. The landlord in City A sent me many messages. Finn had been lurking in front of my rental house for half a month in a row, which had already frightened and many tenants. The landlord also sent me surveillance videos. In the videos, it could be clearly seen that Finn had been guarding in front of the rental house. His cheeks were thin, and he had heavy dark circles under his eyes. Sometimes he smoked quietly. Sometimes he banged on the door like a madman. I frowned and sent a big red envelope to the landlord. I asked her to find more people to help throw away all the things in the rental house. Auntie, the landlord, agreed. But on the next night, she called me. "Mariana, your ex-boyfriend has gone crazy. When I wanted to help you throw things away, he wouldn't let me throw anything away. He took everything away. He seems to love you very much. Even your unused toothpaste was carefully collected." As soon as I heard this, I found it very ridiculous. If he loves me, will he calculate against me and suppress me? If he loves me, will he leave me alone on the highway? I didn't want to explain these words to Auntie the landlord. It doesn't matter. If he wants it, let him take it. They are all rubbish. I hung up the phone. After dealing with my work and rental house in City A, basically there was nothing left to do. Later and later, Finn sent me a long apology letter through a classmate I knew a long time ago. I didn't read a single word of the content of that letter, because I knew he was a very hypocritical person. I only knew that his life was not going well. He was laid off from his job. The jobs he found later had a monthly salary of no more than 6,000 yuan. Without me as a backup, he soon couldn't afford the mortgage. After the house was cut off from supply, it was auctioned off by the bank. Due to the fall in housing prices, he not only lost all his down payment but also owed the bank money. Finn completely disappeared from my life. From then on, my life was clear and sunny.